Welcome back to Core Motivations Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Connolly. I'm a certified Enneagram coach and a Symbis marriage coach. Perhaps this is your first time joining us. So happy that you found us. And for those returning, I'm very excited that you continue to be committed to growth through this podcast. Anyone participating with Awareness Month activities? We actually are meeting with a local food bank in a few weeks, and we get to take a tour of the facility and learn more in depth on what they do and how we can participate. St. Mary's is the name of this local food bank, and they serve two-thirds of the state of Arizona. That's pretty amazing. I'm also sure they need more help and more resources. When we were on a walk a couple months ago, a group from St. Mary's, they were harvesting grapefruit from a local farm to give to the food bank, and it gets resourced through the food bank. It was so cool to find out that this is part of what they do. And I'm really looking forward to meeting this group at St. Mary's. Okay, I have to know. After talking about Survivor, did anyone go and check out Eva Erickson on her season? Or maybe you started binging Survivor? I hope so, because oh my goodness, season 50 is incredible. No spoilers from me, though. I'm holding it tight to the chest because the season is not over yet. Oh, and my birthday, it was so nice. I did some plant shopping and coffee drinking, of course. If you know, you know. Flowers and even more flowers that were delivered right to the house. I got a new camera lens. We went to the botanical gardens at night, which was so beautiful. I had a gluten-free dinner, gluten-free desserts, lots of phone calls, video calls, and even sweet messages on socials. My husband took a day off to celebrate with me, which was pretty special. I think that everyone should experience a little extra spoiling once in a while. As for me, I am here for it all the time. I have to say, it's been pretty great to be so lucky and blessed. How about a quick recap of last week? Okay, that wasn't really a question because I'm going to bring it anyway. So last week, we got introduced to arrows, lines, and paths. And arrows and lines are just as they suggest. They're directional. They direct towards the paths of when a person is either challenged and out of health or in health, the best parts of their counterpart number. So when talking about a specific type, and to remind you, we discussed type 1 and 2. So for one, when in average to unhealthy, they go to the unhealthy type 4, meaning this is what they do in response to stress, the way they think, feel, and behave to that specific stress. And the same for the other type that they go to being a 7. So whether it be in health or unhealthy, they go to those aspects of or personalities of type 7. And we discuss paths. It's the way to discover our unhealthy, leading us towards the healthy, the transformation, the journey that fosters self-awareness, allowing for all of us to move from reactive behaviors toward a consciously chosen, balanced, and productive actions, and in turn enhancing our personal growth and breaking those default habits. Let me break this down really quick, which we also talked about last time, but I want to keep this fresh in our minds. So stress back. It's what we're like when we are under stress. It's the way we think, feel, and behave. And again, this is in general, blind spot. It's how we might behave around family and our closest friends, the people we're most comfortable with. It refers to a state where an individual's dominant personality traits, so that of your core type, are excessively expressed, leading to disconnection from reality, kind of like being on autopilot. and even unaware of how your behavior is or might be impacting yourself and others, which really is the opposite from your true intentions. Then a growth path. This is when things start to really wind up and get good because it's the forward movement along specific lines of integration where we're adopting the healthy, positive traits of another type to overcome our default and ego driven mechanism. And finally, here comes the transformation, the converging path. This is the alignment point, the transcending, gaining enough distance from the habitual unconscious drivers to act freely rather than being reactive. So the lines are what connects our main type with those healthier types of the two connector types. So for example, type 1, the line leads to a 4 and a 7. 4 and 7 being the connector types. So the connector types again can be that we're connecting either in health or unhealthy. The arrow is the direction of either health or unhealthy. So, for example, type 1, the lines lead to 4 and 7. So, 4 and 7 being the connector types, where the arrow is the direction of either healthy or unhealthy. So, the converging path is when you merge all three in health. So, you have your core type and your connectors. So, that would be core 1 with your connector 4 and 7. As well, you become more aware of when you're straying away, utilizing your rumble strip. Additionally, it's not just moving between stress and growth behaviors. Rather, it's moving beyond it. It is this high integration. So, what happens is the 9 types, they blur and embody a wholeness, which is basically trapped by the limitations of your core type. That leads us to freedom. Okay, are you ready to look at the journey of other Enneagram types? Of course you do. I'm so glad you agree. So let's get into it. Type 3, starting with their core motivations. And I like to start with this because it gives the opportunity to see where they are beginning from and their foundation. Also, I think that sometimes these core motivations can be confusing. So, this gives us an opportunity to just pause from the arrows, lines, and paths and remind ourselves of what they are and what they do and how they operate in our lives. So, core motivations are the why we do what we do. They are how we see ourselves and how we believe the world views us or sees us. So when I say core fear, these are the things a person worries about and is more likely to focus on. Their core desire is what they want people to actually believe and see. But what trips them up a little bit is this core weakness. It causes them to be the opposite of their true, authentic self. And then finally, core longing, it's what is deep inside that they want not just for others, but they want that from within. They want to believe and receive this from all angles. So when we look at the core motivations of type 3, try to keep in mind the purpose. This person is not only beginning with or from, but it's how they respond to the world and community in which they are a part of. So type 3, their core fear is being exposed as or thought of as incompetent, inefficient, or worthless. Essentially, they fear that they are failing to be successful. But their core desire is having this high status and respect, that they are in fact being admired, successful, and valuable. But their core weakness gets in the way. Their core weakness is deceit. It's where they're deceiving themselves into believing they are the only image they present to others, embellishing the truth by putting on this polished persona for everyone, including themselves, to see and admire. Because the truth is, their core longing, what they long to hear, is you are loved and valued for simply being you. Isn't that something that we all want? That you are loved and valued for just being you. Sometimes I don't really give us enough time to just pause and be in the information that was just shared, to absorb it and sit with it for a moment. So, with that, before we move on, I wonder, is some of this spot on, but is it also hard to hear? Perhaps it resonates with you. How does it impact you? Is it helping you to be more aware of what works and maybe what doesn't? I also want to ask, are you proud of yourself for recognizing either oh, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I'm experiencing and actually doing, either for good or for bad, if you will? Now, maybe you have not been typed as a 3, or maybe you don't even know yet. But I know there are aspects of each Enneagram type that we can see in ourselves that we struggle with. So take this moment to check in with yourself. Is there something here that causes you to pause? I know it has for me. Okay, ready to move on? Let's look at each path for a type 3. So, stress path. And remember again, it's the way you think, feel, and behave under stress. Now, we're going to talk about those connector types. So, a 3 moves from average to unhealthy type 9, meaning they shut down. They numb out. They become disengaged and passive. They remain busy to avoid looking lazy, even if they're not able to focus. They withdraw and become depressed, losing interest in accomplishing. They resist help from others and want to be left alone, even not bothered, and in turn manipulate and blame problems on others. Do you noticing anything about the unhealthy part? They remain busy, they withdraw, and they resist. Side note, we are certainly not picking on the 9s. Rather, it's highlighting some of the challenges and traits that 9s struggle with that come out of their core motivations. The similarities are because 3s are headed on the unhealthy path of a 9. So keep in mind the unhealthy is, of course, the work for both of them, right? The 3 and the 9. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. Blind spot. Again, it's the way you behave around those with whom you feel most secure. Type 3s moving from average to unhealthy type 6. Okay, so we have the main type 3 and we have the 2 connectors, 6 and 9. They express anxieties, complaints, doubts, anger, and frustration that they don't typically reveal to others. They react strongly when blamed or accused of something. They become skeptical of others and unsure of whom they can trust. And again, these are some of the core motivations of a 6. That is also the work of a type 3 because they have those things in common when unhealthy. Okay, are you ready for when things start to get good? This is the next part of the path, growth path. And again, it's what healthy growth in you looks like. So when 3 moves towards healthy side of 6, they take rest in knowing they are not defined by their accomplishments. They become less competitive and more loyal, authentic, vulnerable, and cooperative. They even shift to team player mindset, asking for help and using their talents to help and promote others. I love getting to see growth and healing, don't you? even more so when you yourself experience that, right? Okay, and finally, converging path. It's that transformation where it takes place so that you can transcend to this next level. So, type threes, when they move to the healthy side of nine, and listen to these positive actions. So, instead of constantly achieving and performing, they will learn how to relax, rest, and just be. They excel out of joy rather than insecurity and desperation or fear. They seek to collaborate and value the viewpoints and contributions of others. They search for ways to support others. And instead of their success needing to stand out, it's about other people. Essentially, in the growth of converging, instead of being in their head and self focused, they become others focused while still taking care of themselves. Now, one last thing to remember about are threes. They are a successful achiever. They are efficient, accomplished, motivating, driven, and image conscious. So when they get to that conversion place, it is something that I believe calls for celebration. These things for each type, they're difficult to change. However, through awareness, we can take these steps. So, here's a couple of questions to reflect on as you navigate these paths from stress to conversion, that transformation part. So, moving toward a type 9, what are your go to strategies for disengaging with life? Describe a time when you were under stress. What did you do to disengage and numb out? These questions are about awareness. What is happening on the inside? What would it look like if you let go of needing to have a successful image and allowing yourself to just be you? What are some ways you can learn that your worth is inherent and it's not defined by your achievements? In turn, begin to embrace those collab moments and overcome this competition and foster genuine connections. I think that these questions can apply to anything and anyone. So when a three is moving towards type six, ask as you're experiencing that. When around those you are secure, do you more freely express your anxieties, fears, doubts, and frustrations? Does it help you when you vent to those closest to you? Are there other ways or strategies that would benefit you and your family? Is there a time you can think of when you exhibited growth by turning your focus away from gaining a successful image for yourself and began to focus on others? And I believe this is the best one and even high on the impact of transformation. Can you see it might have or has benefited others while bringing you joy as if that is the only reward? Okay, moving forward. Type 4. Who is type 4? Well, they are our romantic individualist. They are authentic and creative, expressive. They're deep and temperamental. So, what are their core motivations? Well, let's look at this. Their core fear is being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, or insignificant. However, their desire is to be unique and special and find their authentic self. But what trips them up is this core weakness, and it's known as envy, meaning that they feel they are tragically flawed, that something is foundationally missing inside, that others actually possess this quality that they don't have. But truly, their core longing is that they are seen and loved for exactly who they are, which is special and unique. I truly would love to hear what you think about this. When I hear these things, knowing people who are an Enneagram type 4, it really causes me to realize I've missed so many opportunities to show up for them and let them know that I see them exactly as who they are, which is the longing that the type 4 has. Can you relate? Wow, that was heavy. I think I have a bunch of those today. Okay, let's look at the paths for our type 4 because that was just their core motivations. So, stress path, again, it's the way you think, feel, and behave under stress. And so they move toward an average to unhealthy type 2, their connector. So, when they move to average to unhealthy type 2, they defend their hurt feelings by withdrawing attention. They become overwhelmed and do things to win affection. They create dependencies by manipulating others to need them. They become possessive and need closeness with others. Now, again, look at some of these words. They defend, they're over involved, they're dependent and possessive. So their blind spot. Again, it's the way you behave around those with whom you feel most secure. Fours move from average to unhealthy type 1, and 1 is also their connector. They focus on flaws, becoming more vocal, judgmental, critical of others, and they visibly display their disappointments. They become impatient, picky, and controlling. They criticize themselves of the imperfections. This may not be what happens to all people. So when I'm describing these things, it's possible you agree and maybe you don't. But aren't we all here to help each other to level up? So if you disagree, is it possible that you don't want to admit that you do these things? I would suggest, assuming you're interested in growth, ask the people closest to you. Although I recommend you be careful in the way you present this. In other words, establish rules as you ask the following questions and make sure to ask that the person that you're talking to be sensitive, as you might struggle with the actual answer. And the question is, do I focus on flaws? Am I impatient and criticize when I'm around those I am most comfortable? Try to remind yourself the goal in learning all of these things that we're talking about is awareness towards health, growth, and transformation. Okay, back to the path. I would love to say that the rumble strip, it's working really great right now. And it is the thing that gets you right back on the path. So, ready? This is where the good stuff starts to happen, in that we are utilizing our self awareness and we're applying it. So, the next part of being on this path is that growth path. It's what healthy growth looks like for you. And this is when the 4 moves towards the healthy side of 1, that connector. Here are the positives. You ready for it? You become more emotionally balanced, objective, and principled. And according to the Oxford Dictionary, it's when you're acting in accordance with morality and showing recognition of right and wrong. You embrace mundane tasks as opportunities to be a good steward and responsible as well as organized. You become more disciplined, productive, and you focus on doing what is right. And finally, the part that we've been waiting for, the conversion path. As transformation takes place, this is where you can transcend. So 4s, they move to that healthy side of 2, their connector, and they selflessly support and care for others without needing attention on themselves. They express gratitude for what they possess, such as your gifts or superpowers. So instead of longing for what is missing, you're able to openly affirm the positive qualities others possess. Okay, let's look at some reflection questions as we bring together the four with its connectors, one and two. So, for reflection, moving towards a type two, describe a time when you were under stress. Perhaps you pushed others away and withdrew from them. Then you tried to win them back through favors, creating dependency and even manipulating them back into relationship with you. Can you think of a time this may have been your go to? What do you need to do to recognize this pattern as you become more self accepting and in turn not push others away? And on the other side, can you describe a time when you were doing extremely well and you placed your love and focus on others? What did it feel like? And again, this is that transformational spot. Okay, reflective questions moving towards type one. So, when around family or those you most trust, do you become more openly controlling and even critical of them? Can you think of an example of this? Reminder, this is always about awareness, nothing else, just awareness. Okay. Next reflection. Describe what causes you to become demanding, picky, or even impatient. When you're growing, do you find that you begin to live in real time rather than in your emotional fantasies? This might help a little in regards to knowing a type 4. And again, this is all in general of where a type 4 is coming from. So they navigate out of this tension between their rich inner world and external reality, frequently retreating into the idealized fantasies because they're trying to escape perceived mundane or flawed realities. It's like their protective mechanism. Here's some more reflective questions. How can you see your unique beauty and accept yourself as you are? That's a hard one. That's a hard one for me. Maybe it is for you too. Okay, and last one. How can you bring more objectivity to your everyday life so that you stay grounded in reality? If you want any of these reflective questions to have on hand as you navigate from your stress path to your converging path, and I hope you have either worked with a coach or you plan to, but if not and you want support, I invite you to DM me for more information. Otherwise, you can connect with me and I will send those reflective questions to you. Also, that goes for any of the types we've talked about so far and those to come. Well, congratulations. You have just made it through the arrows, lines, and the paths of type 3 and 4. Nothing but praise here. I'm so proud of all of us. This was a lot of information, and we were so very serious today. Great job. And in light of such a serious time together, I bring you dumb jokes. Don't worry, you'll thank me later. So, what do you call a joke that isn't funny? A sentence. What did one ocean say to the other? Nothing. They just waved. I get plenty of exercise at work, jumping to conclusions, pushing my luck, and dodging deadlines. Okay, last one. If every day is a gift, I'd like a receipt for Monday. I want to exchange it for another Friday. And with that, your favorite and mine, the legal stuff. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for medical care. The materials, movies, videos, or books referred to in this podcast are recommendations only. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast host. That's me or sponsors. Join us each week as we dive into all things Enneagram, self-care ideas, self-love patterns and rhythms, share ideas from other reputable authors, doctors, and my favorite podcasters. A big thank you to you for being here with me today on Core Motivations Podcast. We're counting on you to help spread the word about our little corner core motivations. So hit the follow button, share this episode with someone, and please leave a review. In fact, a 5-star helps us reach so many more people. Want to know where you can find me? You can find me, Michelle, on Instagram at coremotivations_coach or through email, michelle@coremotivationscoach.com. So let me leave you with this. Until next time, and as always, I'm rooting for you.